Once upon a time, at a bustling train station, people were caught up in their own world. Some awaited their train, while others were preparing to cross the tracks. As the signal flickered to green, the throng began their march across, with a young mother and her baby leading the parade. Suddenly, without warning, a train came hurtling down the track. The brakes failed, leaving it uncontrollable. Passengers started leaping from the now rampaging train, their terrified cries filling the air. The once busy station fell into chaos as the realization spread that the train was unstoppable. The mother, her baby in a stroller, frantically attempted to reach safety. Her cries for help echoed amidst the pandemonium, but the crowd could do nothing except urge her to flee from the impending disaster. While the fear-stricken crowd looked on, a mysterious figure appeared from the mass of people and disappeared towards the runaway train. With courage seemingly beyond belief, the mysterious man stood on the track, challenging the iron monster with nothing but his bare hands. With an extraordinary display of strength, he brought the train to a halt, the cars smashing into each other in a cacophony of crashes and sparks. The mother, bracing for the worst, was stunned to find herself and her baby unscathed, protected by the stranger. As he helped her up, checking if she was all right, she could only stand in awe. But as they stepped back, they were met with an astonishing sight. The face of their savior was a skull. Fear took hold, as the mother thought that death had indeed come for them. But if you're finding this tale intriguing, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. Meanwhile, back at the mysterious man's home, he woke up and started his daily routine. He goes by the name Zombie Zomba, a moniker he chose since he has no memory of his true identity, age, or even the circumstances of his death. Despite his intimidating appearance and grim countenance, Zombie Zomba had a dream. A dream to befriend humans. A dream for a day when he would no longer face their prejudice and rejection. In the embrace of a dream, Zombie strived for self-improvement. He was no ordinary sight to behold, yet he firmly believed that with unwavering effort, success was within his grasp. He was convinced that performing countless acts of heroism, like the ones he regularly engaged in, would make his dreams attainable. Take, for instance, the day a plane was destined to crash into a bustling football stadium. With immense strength, Zombie took the weight of the aircraft upon his shoulders, averting the impending catastrophe. Yet onlookers found their attention strayed more towards his peculiar looks than the good deed he had performed. Then there was the time a condominium was engulfed in flames. Parents wept helplessly, their children trapped inside the inferno. But Zombie swept in and rescued the kids. The reactions from the parents and firefighters were reminiscent of those at the football stadium. His appearance overshadowed his heroism. But let's rewind to Zombie's backstory. His strength wasn't innate. He could still remember the day when a summer outbreak turned his city into a zombie wasteland. He was merely a student then, caught off guard by the sudden apocalypse, and subsequently infected. From then on, Zombie became an ordinary member of the mindless, wandering, human-hungry mob that once terrified him. This way of existence continued until humans resurfaced. In their return, they bore no rationality. Armies and survivalists pointed an arsenal of weapons at the mob of zombies. Humans burnt zombies for fuel and exploited them to create a perpetual energy machine. Zombie couldn't comprehend the mutual animosity between zombies and humans, but knew he had to adapt for survival. So, Zombie started training. Day by day, he lifted weights, ran, swam, and jumped. A self-dependent life sparked from his relentless effort. He swapped human flesh for protein powder, diligently adhering to his diet despite exhaustion. Then, the day came when Zombie was no longer ordinary. He was strong, buffed, and seemingly invincible. With newfound strength and knowledge, he decided to integrate into the budding human society, hoping to reshape their perception of his kind. He strived to be a good zombie, civilized, law-abiding. But even in the midst of his heroism, daily life beckoned. One sunny day at E-House Supermarket, the friendly cashier asked Zombie if his mask was uncomfortable to wear all day. Oblivious to the truth beneath the mask, they had no idea. In the curious case of the figure known as Zombie, he was spotted buying an entire supply of eggs at a local store, not just a few cartons, but enough to fill a grocery truck. Our zombie protagonist was enjoying his egg shopping spree, while two men lurked and watched his every move from a hidden vantage point behind a nearby bush. Their mission? To unmask Zombie and reveal the face beneath. In Zombie's hands, a wanted poster held his attention. The man pictured on it was AGU, a name familiar to him. The notice stated Agu's danger level as SSS. This was no ordinary menace. It indicated he was as formidable as a boss-level zombie. The bounty? A hefty 9,999,226 yen. Meanwhile, our prying duo were reminiscing about their first encounter with Zombie, when they'd seen him astonishingly lift an entire airplane in a football field. The cameraman amongst them was skeptical, wondering if they'd been fooled by media exaggeration, while his mustachioed companion continued to observe Zombie intently. But in spite of his skepticism, they both decided to risk following Zombie to satisfy their curiosity. Midway through their stalking expedition, they witnessed Zombie displaying his exceptional strength by effortlessly lifting the truck full of eggs. In the blink of an eye, Zombie was off the ground and soaring into the sky, truck and all. It was a sight to behold, leaving the two observers gaping in shock, their attention riveted to the blue expanse above. Zombie flew so high, he reached the outskirts of space, prompting even astronauts in a nearby spaceship to do a double take. Our story now leads us to a desolate, abandoned area where a peculiar community of zombies resided. However, these were not your typical mindless zombies. They had consciousness, feelings, and they even communicated in understandable language. Hunger was an all-too-real issue in this place. We see a young zombie pleading with his mother for food, only to be asked to be patient. Later that night, the city's dark skies were illuminated by the arrival of Zombie, landing masterfully with the truck he'd bought earlier. The zombie community welcomed him, hailing him as their king. A young zombie asked Zombie why he hadn't just driven the truck like humans usually do. To this, Zombie humorously responded that he lacked a driver's license, leaving the young ones enlightened about the ways of the world beyond their city. This place, this abandoned city, was the kingdom that Zombie had claimed as his own. In a realm far removed from the scrutiny of humans, a zombie king made a bold decree. He commanded his undead subjects to subsist on eggs instead of their traditional diet of human flesh. With a hearty appetite, the zombies began feasting on the egg supply their king procured. Their eerie, deserted town buzzed with a peculiar form of life. Seeking his comrades, the zombie king questioned a child about their whereabouts. The youngster pointed towards the Grand Hotel at the city center, a hallowed relic of a bygone era. Striding into the hotel, the king found a group of formidable zombies, each as powerful as himself. This elite gathering of the undead featured an assortment of bizarre, mythical-looking beings: the fearsome AGU, Lang with his unusual fur, the notorious Varmint, and the elusive Blackie. Each of them commanded respect and fear, equivalent to boss-level zombies, with a threat rating of SSS, an S-tier level of danger in their bizarre society. Despite his relatively diminutive stature, the king was greeted with deference, a testament to his royal status. He surveyed his subjects, expressing disappointment in AGU, who had succumbed to his predatory instincts and harmed a human. Remorseful, AGU apologized for his uncontrollable urge whenever humans were within his reach. The king, though seated on a simple couch, projected an aura of authority, as if he was on a regal throne. His purpose was twofold: to ensure his subjects were fed, and to listen to the reports of his lieutenants. When Blackie reported the need for constant relocation to avoid human detection, Varmint interrupted, advocating for direct combat against humans. The king, however, chided Varmint's recklessness, reminding him of the dangers humans posed. Their discussion was abruptly cut short by the distant drone of an approaching plane. Aboard the aircraft, a stern woman meticulously scanned data on the flight deck. She radiated authority and command, her gaze fixed on a colossal payload, a nuclear warhead set to detonate in 20 minutes over their forsaken city. An unsettling sense of satisfaction tinged with fury swept over the woman at the thought of obliterating the zombie-infested city, hinting at some past traumatic encounter with the undead. On the ground, the powerful zombies sensed the looming threat. Varmint, ever impulsive, proposed taking the fight to the humans. The king, however, stopped him, aware that Varmint's violent instincts could lead to disaster. Rather than standing down, the zombie leader commanded his fellow bosses to retreat. As a stalwart leader, he vowed to stand against the humans for the sake of his kin. It turns out, not only was an airplane preparing to obliterate the denizens of the forsaken city, but ground troops were also gearing up to open fire at every zombie in sight. As the military forces crept closer, the zombie chief gave a clear directive to his followers. They must ensure the safety of the civilians within a 20-minute window. It was as if he'd witnessed this chaos before. His organization seemed well prepared. In addition to an airplane and ground troops, the invaders also deployed a seasoned fighter, eager to eliminate every zombie he encounters. Confidence oozed from him, ready to strike down any obstacle in his path. The faces of the zombie citizens bore an unfamiliar expression: fear. Despite their decayed bodies transforming into monstrous mutants, they wished to survive, sprinting with all their might to escape the doomed city. Elsewhere, aboard the airborne vessel, a man with the air of a deranged scientist studied a series of statistical data. This mad scientist, known as FEI, learned from a colleague that the Extraordinaries Academy discovered the zombies first. Armed with the knowledge that the Academy had dispatched both air and ground forces, FEI couldn't help but smirk. He promptly pressed a red button, revealing a cruel experiment using humans as bait for the zombies. The caged humans screamed in terror, pleading for their release into a situation they never consented to. Their cage was dropped, and the zombies swarmed upon it. While the human bait was being besieged, a ground unit known as TIMA was updated about detected human life and commanded to navigate towards the marked location to rescue the entrapped humans. The soldiers positioned their machine guns at strategic points, aiming to gun down any escaping zombies. As they unleashed a hail of bullets, they quickly learned that the zombies were indestructible. A young zombie clung to its sibling amidst the massacre, only to be shielded from the bullets by their heroic leader. But one soldier was convinced: there were no invincible zombies, they just hadn't used enough firepower yet. Without a second thought, he discharged his rocket launcher at the zombie. The resulting explosion was quickly followed by an alert from a comrade. The targeted zombie was in fact a known extraordinary who had been aiding humanity. The soldier stared at the profile of the extraordinary. The zombie, recognized for his iconic zombie mask. Overwhelmed with shock, the soldier realized he'd let his rage at the zombies cloud his judgment, leading him to fire upon the wrong target. In the wake of an enormous explosion, a figure stands unmoved, undeterred. It's Zombie, still as a statue, determined to protect those he can. Meanwhile, a seasoned warrior from the Air Force is alerted about the appearance of a formidable boss zombie in Zone B. Swiftly, without a hint of fear, he leaps into a daring skydive, ready to engage the looming threat. Back at the military base, the ingenious yet eccentric scientist Faye and his associate are supporting the armed forces. Studying the data pouring in from the desolate city, they notice something incredible. The zombie bosses seem to have a strange protective instinct towards other zombies, saving them when they can. It seems the zombies aren't mindless creatures, as they previously thought. An intense argument erupts between Faye and his associate, when the latter proposes a shockingly inhumane plan, using a group of humans as bait. Unleashed among the zombies, the humans are besieged, the scent of their flesh triggering a primal hunger within the zombies. One zombie, long deprived of human sustenance, transforms horrifically into a monstrous mutant, the boss zombie. Upon hearing the mutant's thunderous roar, Zombie is alerted to its presence. Simultaneously, the Air Force warrior descends into Zone B. A second military team, remorseful after mistakenly shooting at Zombie, the extraordinary hero, is informed of the situation and heads towards the zone. Their leader, guilt-ridden for injuring Zombie, takes it upon himself to save Zombie, hastily placing him in their vehicle and urging his team to drive faster. The team, though perplexed by their leader's actions, comply out of duty. Meanwhile, a red-haired girl among them grows increasingly curious about Zombie's mysterious mask, not realizing it's simply Zombie's unusual face. Back in Zone B, soldiers battle the boss Zombie, struggling to contain its newfound monstrous strength. The mutant Zombie, now an overwhelming nightmarish creature, effortlessly lifts a bus and hurls it towards the soldiers. As the bus flies through the air, the battlefield gains a new player, Marshall, a master swordsman from the academy. In a display of astonishing skill, he slices the airborne bus in two, earning cheers from the soldiers. Positioning himself to counter the next attack from the boss Zombie, Marshall instructs the soldiers to rescue the trapped humans and evacuate the area immediately. With Marshall's arrival, hope is ignited once more. He stands his ground, confident in his ability to take down the formidable boss Zombie. In the midst of chaos, the team's brave leader and his squad were ensuring the safe evacuation of the human civilians. As they aided the people, they also found time to check in on their counterparts' progress. A question concerning the dreaded boss zombie's location was raised by the squad leader, to which his team replied that their ally, Marhal, had intercepted the gruesome creature. Hearing Marhal was engaged in battle with the boss, Zombie brought a sigh of relief to them all, for Marhal was a force to be reckoned with. Suddenly, Zombie, a peculiar figure who had been pulled along by the squad leader, could no longer stand idle. The boss zombie they were discussing stirred a sense of familiarity within him. A red-haired girl, engrossed in helping the evacuees, noticed Zombie's absence, leaving her to wonder where he had disappeared to. Meanwhile, in Zone B, Marhal stood face to face with the boss zombie. His eyes bore into the creature, seeing not a monster, but a tormented human trapped within a decaying shell. Breaking the eerie silence, he asked if the creature was in pain. The zombie's response came as a horrifying growl. The boss zombie lunged at Marhal with savage intent. Marhal, a master of the sword, drew his katana and executed a swift, precise strike. His movements were so rapid that they were almost invisible to the human eye. His aim was not simply to kill the creature, but to liberate it from its decaying prison. The zombie stood still for a moment before it fell apart, neatly severed by Marhal's expert stroke. After sheathing his sword, Marhal offered a silent prayer, hoping for the creature to find peace in death. Just as Marhal was about to leave, he noticed another figure, Zombie. Zombie stood there, staring silently at the dismembered body of what was once his friend. Back at the Air Force Base, cheers erupted as news came in of Marhal's victory over the boss zombie. Their commander ordered the team to document the event, acknowledging it as a significant achievement. Back in Zone B, Zombie mourned his friend, apologizing for the uncontrollable nature of their existence. Realizing Zombie's identity, Marhal's grief turned to rage. He shouted that all zombies must be destroyed, and drew his sword once again. Meanwhile, the team at the Air Force Base detected another boss-level zombie. Overconfident about Marhal's capabilities, they assumed that he would quickly dispatch this new threat. A girl monitoring the data sensed that something was amiss. The data indicated a rapid conclusion to the confrontation between Marhal and Zombie, with Marhal as the casualty. In Zone B, Marhal was found hanging on a pole, gravely injured, while Zombie grieved his fallen friend. He didn't kill Marhal instantly, but left him in a state of critical vulnerability. Tension filled the cabin of the Airborne Command Center as their monitors flickered with the dwindling life signs of Marshall, critically wounded. Amidst this chaos, they were haunted by another pressing concern. All human civilians were yet to be evacuated. The president, a key member of the team, was incensed. She was so overwhelmed by the dire situation and her bias against zombies that words failed her. With a swift decision, she vanished into the aircraft's belly and parachuted out to join the ground forces battling the zombie threat. Her team in the air warned her, urging her to evaluate the formidable strength of their enemy first. But the president, with her sword in hand, plummeted through the air, brimming with determination. As she descended like a comet, she invoked her attack, the white blade cleave. The zombies watched in confusion as this woman fell from the sky. With one powerful swing, her blade shattered on contact with the zombie, stunning the president with the creature's impervious strength. Despite her team's caution against reckless solo action, the president squared off against the zombie. She assessed the formidable foe, recalling the fate of Marshall, and realized the zombie was no ordinary enemy, perhaps a mutant or a variant. With renewed resolve, she drew her secondary sword, ready to strike once more. Her heart seethed with disdain for the zombie as she prepared her next attack with the enhanced blade. The zombie, however, yearned for dialogue, hoping to clarify the situation. Undeterred, the president charged, only to have the zombie evade her. She quickly regrouped, readying her red blade cleave. As she executed her attack, infrastructure shattered around her, split in twain by her power. But the zombie simply ducked, effortlessly avoiding her assault. Frustration swelled within the president. Her desire to vanquish the zombie by her own hand grew, but her enemy's abilities seemed insurmountable. Meanwhile, her team managed to rescue the critically wounded Marshall. His words became incoherent babble, a soldier beside him attempting to soothe his distress. In the bustling headquarters of the Air Force, a wave of anxious whispers ran through the team. Their president was in danger. Again and again, they urged her to retreat. The civilian evacuation was complete. But in the tumult of Zone B, both the president and an entity known only as Zombie were immersed in a dangerous dance. Zombie, in his desperate race against time, was trying to rescue as many people as possible before the impending destruction of the city. The president, on the other hand, was blinded by her fierce enmity towards the zombies. A burning desire for revenge consumed her, fueled not just by a wound inflicted on one of her team members by Zombie, but also by an intense, deep-seated loathing. Amidst their chaotic encounter, the president demanded to know why Zombie would flee from a battle she was so keen on. But Zombie, with a swarm of worries and a list of tasks on his mind, simply carried on, deftly evading her. There was no way he would willingly face the president's lethal intentions. To aid her pursuit, the president activated the power of Lotto Level 2, a technique derived from the Japanese art of striking with a sword and resheathing it in swift succession. Coupled with her rocket-powered boots, she was a force to reckon with. With a sudden surge of speed, she caught up with Zombie, landing a successful hit that sent him sprawling. A triumphant smirk spread across her face as she convinced herself of her victory. Satisfied, she signaled her team to bring the plane lower to retrieve her. Meanwhile, in a distant lab, mad scientist FAI received a comforting report from his partner. The civilians they had locked up for their grim fate were safe. But they were reminded of a cunning plan. An inside man they had planted within the Air Force to disrupt the mission. Soon, the saved civilians were leaping for joy, celebrating their newfound safety. Unbeknownst to them, in the cockpit of the Air Force plane carrying a deadly nuke, a traitorous pilot, an ally of FEI, eyed the red launch button. In a sudden, shocking move, he pushed it, setting the nuclear warhead on a trajectory towards the city. The Air Force team, oblivious to the treachery in their midst, started their own celebration, their thoughts drifting to their families and homes. Their joy was abruptly shattered when a horrified yell rang out from the cockpit. The co-pilot had discovered their treachery. Confusion turned to panic as the horrifying truth sank in. Just as the president believed she had nothing left to worry about, the news of the catastrophic betrayal sent a surge of stress coursing through her. The enemy had infiltrated them and set a course towards unthinkable destruction. In the sky above, the president gazed apprehensively at a terrifying sight: a nuclear missile. It was close enough to wipe out an entire city in under a minute. Her team, reacting instantly, prepared for the ensuing chaos. The plan was simple: lower the altitude, open the cabin doors, and allow the president to get on board. To escape the impending explosion, she'd have to use her booster, the very same device she'd once used to pursue Zombie. While she strained to dodge the disaster, her team urgently advised her to board the aircraft without delay. However, her leg booster malfunctioned, and a wave of regret washed over her. She lamented the precious time wasted in frivolous pursuit when she could have stayed safe, commanding her team from the plane. Out of power and ideas, she berated herself for forgetting to charge the booster before embarking on the mission. As she looked to her left, she noticed Zombie watching her, seemingly hanging on her every word. To her surprise, Zombie swept in, lifting and whirling her around not for vengeance, but to aid her. He flung her towards the plane, and with a shriek, she hurtled through the air. Miraculously, she landed on her feet inside the aircraft, where her concerned team rushed to help her. Even in this moment of relief, her anger simmered. Zombie was still alive. Back on the ground, Zombie's focus was on the nuclear missile descending upon the city. He knew he had to stop it to save the city's undead citizens. With a deep breath, he launched himself into the air, racing towards the missile with blistering speed. Once in reach, he used nothing but his bare hand to intercept it, a maneuver he humorously named Bare-Handed Nuclear Warhead Catch. His incredible feat was witnessed by everyone at Beyonders Academy, including the notorious scientist. Amidst the colossal explosion, the president watched in awe, struck by the strength of this mutant. Zombie landed unscathed, his only discomfort being his ripped clothes and an irritating itch. Back in the scientist's plane, FEI decided it was time to retreat. However, his partner, analyzing data, noticed a life signature within the explosion area. This was not the first time FEI had interfered with the operations of the Beyonders Academy, and he was confident it wouldn't be their last. Also, he was resolute in reaching Beyonders Academy next time, and with that, both mad scientists made their exit from the scene. In the plush interior of the Beyonders Academy's airplane, the president found herself overcome by embarrassment. She was so humiliated that she couldn't utter a word, her head hung low in dejection. Two members of her team, witnessing her distress, were concerned, while another understood her plight. The president had devoted her life to combating zombies, only for her life to be saved by one. A young member of her team approached the president, attempting to dispel her misconceptions about zombie. Despite their advanced technology, they had been under the impression that zombie was human. They'd assumed zombie to be a masked vigilante who had been gaining popularity in the city. The team also learned that zombie had been a city dweller for some time, choosing to maintain his anonymity. Overwhelmed with disbelief, the president clenched her tablet so tightly it cracked, mirroring the shock experienced by the squad leader earlier. After the incident, the city had an otherwise peaceful afternoon, though zombie's presence struck terror in the hearts of its citizens. Disguised as a simple vagrant, zombie sought out a payphone to check on his friends. To his relief, Varmint reassured him that everyone was safe and they were scouting for a new place to live. Comforted by this, zombie promised to reconnect once they'd settled down. After an arduous day, zombie returned home to unwind. But as he prepared to step into his apartment, he noticed he was being watched. Beyonders Academy had located him by hacking into his apartment's security camera. Zombie's gaze sent a jolt of surprise through the president and her team. Indifferent to their intrusion, Zombie began his workout routine, his spirits boosted by Face Off by Tech N9 featuring The Rock playing in the background. Memories of his friends, his chosen family, flooded back as he glanced at their group photo. He pondered whether they'd found a new home and contemplated paying them a visit soon. His peaceful evening was interrupted when the president of Beyonders Academy unceremoniously barged into his apartment. She commanded her security team to seize everything, from kitchenware to bathroom accessories. Zombie, taken aback by the unwarranted invasion, considered calling the police. The president, unbothered by her audacity, presented Zombie with a legal document from Beyonders Academy, notifying him of his compulsory enrollment. Zombie, without giving any consent, had become a member of the Beyonders Academy. Acting as if it was an ordinary event to intrude into someone's home, the president then commanded her security team to physically remove Zombie from his residence. Despite his confusion, Zombie stood firm, insisting that he had no memory of joining an organization he didn't even recognize. He found himself in a heated debate with the guards from Beyonders Academy, who, convinced he was human, were determined to escort him to their school. In the struggle, the guards ended up injured, yet they still managed to load Zombie into their vehicle. Meanwhile, a red-haired girl from the academy team questioned the president's decision. She found it peculiar to recruit Zombie merely on command, given the academy's stringent entry criteria. She also raised a practical concern about Zombie's living arrangements, considering each dormitory at the academy was carefully assigned. The president dismissed her concerns, suggesting Zombie could stay with her, revealing her strong desire to recruit him because of his potential. The guards dutifully followed the president's orders, packing up Zombie's belongings and moving them into her residence. Zombie, bewildered by the sudden turn of events, found himself in a silent standoff with the president, each waiting for the other to explain themselves. His trepidation was clear when he asked if he would be staying with her. The president's response startled him, hinting at a far more intimate arrangement than he anticipated. Though startled, Zombie attempted to clarify that he wasn't, in fact, human. The president appeared disinterested, focusing instead on removing her boots. What came next shocked Zombie. The boots were part of a robotic leg, attached at her knee. The president then shared her traumatic history. As a child, a zombie outbreak in her village turned her life upside down. Her parents were transformed into zombies and bit her legs. To survive, she had to amputate her own legs and, tragically, eliminate her zombified parents. From that day, she harbored a fierce resentment for zombies, swearing to destroy everyone she encountered. Hearing this chilling tale, Zombie held his tongue. His confession about his identity went unheard. Not wishing to reveal his truth, Zombie deftly shifted the conversation to inquire about the Beyonders Academy. The president explained to the group that the Beyonders Academy was an institution dedicated to devising methods to combat zombies. He went on to provide a bit of historical context, stating that the dreaded zombie outbreak had first occurred a millennium ago. To safeguard society, the ancestors of humankind had founded the Academy a good 200 years after the initial outbreak, with the sole purpose of waging war against the undead. The Beyonders Academy, over centuries, had honed innumerable talents to combat the sporadic zombie outbreaks. Zombie, however, struggled to remember his first moments as a member of the undead, only managing to recall the chaotic start of the outbreak which led to his transformation. Though he feigned ignorance about history, the president had little time for idle conversation. Instead, she instructed Zombie to report to the academy the next day, as he had already been secretly enrolled. However, Zombie was reluctant, having been unwillingly thrust into this arrangement. When threatened by the president with an investigation by the academy's top-level experts into his intentions if he attempted to flee, he was left with no choice. The president then introduced herself as Violet. Violet informed Zombie that a member of her team, Dawn, would be his guide to the academy. Violet was convinced that Zombie was already acquainted with Dawn, though Zombie had no recollection of her. The following day, a fiery-haired girl arrived at the Beyonders Academy. Zombie, appearing quite lost, had come to the academy under Dawn's cheerful guidance. Despite her company, Zombie failed to recognize Dawn, causing a flicker of disappointment to cross her face, especially as they had shared some time together in the past. It was only within the confines of an armored personnel carrier that Zombie finally remembered Dawn. Teasing her about her petite stature from when they had first met, Dawn chose to dismiss his comment, as they were about to become classmates. Dawn proceeded to guide Zombie towards their entrance exam. Zombie was perplexed about the need for an entrance exam, but Dawn explained its significance. The academy used the exam to assess each applicant's physical prowess as well as their proficiency in vanquishing zombies. She went on to explain the daunting level of skill required. For instance, an applicant should outpace the world 100-meter sprint record of 9.58 seconds, even if by a fraction. Zombie finally grasped why the academy had been named the Beyonders Academy, feeling the weight of its expectations. Dawn wondered what Zombie could possibly be contemplating. In reality, Zombie was mulling over the idea of the Beyonders Academy, viewing it as an insane asylum filled with madmen. Soon, a crowd had gathered for their entrance exam. The air buzzed with readiness and determination, everyone waiting for instructions for the imminent examination. In a bustling crowd, Zombie was giving little Dawn a shoulder ride. She was so petite that she couldn't see much from the ground level. A bald man, annoyed by Dawn, started cursing. She attempted to shout back, but her voice was lost in the crowd. Zombie, trying to distract her, asked a question intended more for himself. "Does lifting a tire in a human city exempt you from an entrance exam?" Dawn, ever the scholar, explained that favoritism didn't exist in the academy. She'd heard stories of students capable of lifting planes, and she knew that the academy had roots in the old government's regulations. Every student there, she told him, had a secret. No one paid attention to the news in the Beyonders Academy until a one-legged man entered. This middle-aged figure was in charge of the entrance exam. His name was Chen, the sports department's president. Before the exam, he gave a brief history of the prestigious academy, established by their forebears. He tried to inspire the crowd, but his speech was cut short by someone calling his name. Zombie, blushing from the sudden attention, had called out to Chen. He asked what would happen if a zombie was found at the academy. Chen's response was chillingly nonchalant. A zombie would be torn limb from limb, its body hung at the academy's entrance as a warning to all. The neuter he referred to was more gruesome, they would sever the zombie's private parts. Zombie, managing to keep a poker face, was inwardly horrified. Chen, smirking, locked eyes with Zombie, who was imagining the horrific punishments and shuddering. Finally, the entrance exam began. Every applicant was in position, poised for action, their eyes fixed on the referee. Once the signal was given, a rush of wind swept over the field as powerful contestants darted forward. An orange-haired guy's speed startled Zombie. It was a flurry of movement, too quick for the human eye to follow. The first to finish was the orange-haired Wu Cheng-tzu, clocking in at just 3 seconds. Zombie could only gape, still making his way to the finish line. The next test was a shooting exercise. Chen, while overseeing, told them that shooting was a basic skill needed to fight against zombies. The irony wasn't lost on Zombie, who felt coerced into learning how to combat his own kind. As he steadied his aim, he glanced sideways to see Dawn. With a determined expression, she fired her shot. As the first hints of sunlight peaked, Dawn fired 4 bullets with a single pull of the trigger, skillfully taking down each of her targets. With a triumphant gleam in her eyes, she sailed through the shooting test, leaving Zombie feeling inadequate amongst these high-achieving applicants. Other candidates, however, failed and began taking out their frustrations on a straw figure. Zombie's nerves were on edge throughout the ordeal. Next on the agenda was the shot put challenge. Chen, their instructor, clarified that reaching 80 meters was necessary to pass, but a throw of 100 meters would grant them a qualification. As each participant exerted their strength, tossing the heavy ball with varying success, Chen was there, appraising them all. Gradually, he began to distinguish between those who had passed and those who hadn't. Amidst this, Zombie was trying to contain his strength to keep it from being too conspicuous. He felt as though he was caught in an asylum. Shen, meanwhile, was peering at Zombie's personal data. According to the records, Zombie stood at 182 cm and weighed 72 kg. Information sent by Violet. Zombie had been recommended due to his exceptional strength, but Chen remained skeptical. Zombie's mediocre performance thus far was raising suspicions in Chen's mind. Was Zombie deliberately underplaying his strength? Regardless, the testing was far from over, and they proceeded with the next challenge, a throwing range test. Chung Tisu mustered all his power, launching a spear into the air. It sailed towards the mannequin's private part, looking almost static in its flight due to its precision. Zombie winced sympathetically, as if he could feel the mannequin's pain. With Chung Tisu's immense power, not 1 but 3 mannequins were impaled by the spear and sent flying out of the stadium until it crashed into a street sign, drawing gasps from bystanders. Chen noted on his stopwatch, 32 targets hit. With such a performance, Chung Tisu was instantly qualified, and it was now Zombie's turn. As Chung Tisu strode past him, Zombie could feel the intimidating aura he emitted. Zombie reached out to grab his spear, but was abruptly halted by Chen. Curiosity rippled through the crowd. Chen questioned whether Zombie was indeed recommended by Violet. Chen was aware that Violet had vouched for Zombie's strength, but his own observations suggested otherwise. So far, Zombie had only achieved average scores. Was Zombie concealing his real abilities? Now under the spotlight, Zombie was challenged by Chen to show his true power. Chen even insinuated that Zombie might not be human. Zombie refuted the claims with a panicked denial, trying to convince Chen and the crowd of his humanity. Chen chose to believe him, but laid down a condition. Zombie had to surpass Cheng Tsu to pass the test. Chen warned Zombie that if he couldn't demonstrate his strength, it would imply that he had deceived Violet, and that would merit a punishment. Even though Zombie couldn't recall his past, he felt an undeniable fear as he faced Chen's intimidating presence. He had a dim memory of those who hunted him, wanting to exploit him as an unending energy source, emerging from the academy. Determined not to be turned into someone's fuel, Zombie resolved to put up a fierce fight, for his very survival was at stake. Both Shang-Tzu and Dawn anticipated the unleashing of Zombie's true power. Positioned and ready to strike, Zombie drew upon every bit of his training, his left eye flaring red, a sign of his full potential. His serious demeanor betrayed his readiness, his face revealing a person who should not be hidden. The spear left Zombie's hand with such force it sent shockwaves through the ground and catapulted Chung Tzu backwards. The spear soared with such ferocity it blasted into the cosmos, ricocheting off space shuttles and landing on the moon. The spectacle left onlookers speechless and airborne, while Zombie, seemingly unfazed, surveyed the scene. Amidst the chaos, Shen stood agape, seemingly not prepared for Zombie's monstrous strength. Up above, the moon bore a visible scar from the spear's impact, testament to Zombie's incredible power. Embracing his innate power, Zombie had entered a beast mode. He looked up, attempting to trace the path of his powerful throw, his serene demeanor in contrast to the cratered earth beneath his feet. Dawn rushed to him, full of amazement, wondering where the spear had landed. Zombie, however, shrugged it off, saying he merely showed his true strength. The moon now bore an asteroid-like scar from Zombie's incredible spear throw, and in recognition of this, Zombie was granted qualification. His first thought, however, was to return home. Dawn saw Zombie's potential for leadership within the academy, attempting to convince him of the power and influence he could wield. she painted a picture of commanding armies, holding authority over a bustling city of 30 million people, even possessing access to nuclear weapons. As she spoke of Violet, the current president, Dawn presented an enticing vision of power. However, despite Dawn's persuasive words, Zombie remained uninterested in power. Undeterred, Dawn offered Zombie a tour of the campus, a glimpse into a potential future within the academy's walls. As daybreak bathed the biotech department in soft light, the place bustled with the creation of futuristic weaponry. This place could also be referred to as the logistics department. As they surveyed their surroundings, Zombie's eyes landed on a peculiar photo, a happy family, and a man whose face strikingly resembled the deranged scientist they had encountered earlier. Dawn introduced the man in the picture as Jamie. Jamie, the former president of the biotech department, had an interesting history. Following the death of his wife, he had become preoccupied with peculiar experiments involving both humans and zombies. There was talk that Jamie's ultimate aim was to realize his late wife's dream. Once his obsession with these bizarre experiments spiraled out of control, the Academy expelled him, even decreeing that anyone who came across Jamie should eliminate him on sight. While Dawn and Zombie were engrossed in their conversation, a scientist approached, inquiring if they had completed their exam. Dawn responded affirmatively. Zombie, recognizing the woman from somewhere, turned to Dawn for clarification. Dawn unveiled that the woman was none other than Jamie's adopted daughter and the current president of the biotech department, who urged Dawn and Zombie to approach her should they need any equipment. With an excited glint in her eyes, Dawn turned to the scientist, expressing her wish for something that would help her carry her weaponry more easily. She desired a pair of trousers that could conceal her Gatling gun, a weapon larger than herself. The scientist, sensing that Dawn was inclined towards the gunner department, nodded in understanding. Dawn had joined the academy with a single-minded goal, to satiate her fondness for shooting. The scientist, engrossed in her work, didn't notice Zombie until she got a closer look. On seeing Zombie, she shrieked, taken aback by his appearance. But Dawn quickly reassured the scientist, named Kin, that Zombie's disturbing visage was simply a mask. Kin was not easily fooled though. She knew that Zombie was a genuine zombie. However, Dawn stood her ground, arguing that Zombie was indeed human, having seen firsthand his remarkable abilities. Eventually, Kin decided to humor Dawn and concede that if Zombie was indeed a real zombie, he would have attacked her already. Resuming her work, she asked Zombie about his needs. Although initially lost for words, Zombie recalled a peculiar problem. He always found himself clothesless upon returning home, so he asked Kin for an indestructible outfit. Though Kin was taken aback by Zombie's unusual request, she agreed to take on the challenge, even if it seemed impossible. Meanwhile, over at the swordsmanship department, Marshall slinked in, his face reflecting shame. Facing him was a woman who seemed utterly nonchalant. Marshall's appearance at the swordsmanship department indicated he was there to deliver a report about his recent defeat in battle, from his perspective. Marshall, in a bewildering turn of events, found himself hanging from a lamppost, sans clothing, right after his world had plunged into darkness. A woman nearby casually dismissed the idea of zombies being a threat, which puzzled Marshall, for he knew that these creatures possessed incredible strength. Suddenly, the president appeared, advancing toward Marshall with a demand. She demanded to know the name of a particular zombie. Her penetrating gaze seemed to scrutinize every detail of Marshall's face. After her close inspection, she chose to release him. Zhang Lenqi, she introduced herself, the leader of the sword department. Zhang Lenqi, surprisingly, bore similarities to Violet, a prominent figure in the rival blade department. The academy was the battleground for an age-old rivalry between these two departments, each employing crafty tactics to win over the other's members. This competition grew so intense that each side would do anything to avoid having fewer members than their rival. Back in the present, Marshall extended his silent support to a character he referred to as Mr. Zombie. He was aware of the formidable strength possessed by both Violet and Zhang Lenqi. During a class session, a teacher was explaining the behavioral traits of zombies, revealing that besides human flesh, zombies had a peculiar fondness for eggs. He urged his students to exploit these traits when setting traps. Zombie, one of the attentive students, was diligently noting down every detail. His aim was to share his newfound knowledge with his family and other zombies. Zombie's classmates found his goal peculiar. Their intrigue was suddenly disrupted by an unexpected announcement urging everyone to assemble at the gymnasium. Considering they had already had an assembly that day, the sudden call to gather piqued Don's curiosity. The gymnasium soon filled with students. Zombie was casually enjoying a popsicle, while Don was still puzzling over the unexpected assembly. Violet joined them, advising Zombie and Don to behave themselves, as they had been specially recommended by her. Amidst the ensuing conversation, Don curiously asked Zombie whether he could eat through his mask. Just then, Zhang Lanqi entered the gymnasium. A boy from Kin's group pointed out Zombie as their target, making a quick judgment about Zombie's capabilities based on his outward appearance. With Lanqi's permission, the boy set out to test Zombie. The assembly was then graced by another powerful figure, a man flanked by robotic assistants. His face bore an imposing scar, which, coupled with his stature, commanded immediate respect. He was the chief, the leader of the mechanical lifeform department. As students respectfully lowered their heads in his presence, Zombie, oblivious to the room's atmosphere, remained upright until Dawn prompted him to bow. In this sea of respect, Zhang Lenqi stood out as the only one who seemed unaffected by the chief's presence. However, even she was not immune to his warning to avoid any trouble. Lenqi, with a flicker of indifference in her eyes, chose to leave. The boy, puzzled, wondered why Lenqi would depart so suddenly, especially when their goal was practically within reach. However, to Lenqi, the chief held greater importance than Zombie. In her eyes, only the truly strong were deserving of respect. Unlike Violet, the chief never missed an opportunity to commend her efforts. Violet, ever humble, accepted his praise, simply stating that she was only doing her job. Caught amidst the odd tension between the department heads, Zombie felt the weight of the situation. Meanwhile, Dawn was all innocence, questioning Zombie about his favorite popsicle flavor. Without missing a beat, Zombie confessed his preference for eggs. His curiosity piqued, Zombie asked about the chief's power. Dawn revealed that the chief was a creation of Jamie, an evolved version of humankind, and the lone survivor among Jamie's many experimental trials. After Jamie's expulsion from the academy, the chief founded the Mechanical Lifeform Department, establishing control over a city with a population of over 50 million people. Impressively, in his decade-long tenure, not a single zombie was spotted within the city limits. His city was a sanctuary, fiercely guarded and maintained. If even a single hair were detected, immediate action would be taken to cleanse the entire area. A hint of fear flashed in Zombie's eyes, while Dawn watched in awe. The chief stepped onto the stage, sharing with the students, despite their freshman status, that the academy needed their help. Their curiosity piqued. The students wondered how they could be of assistance. To clarify, the chief instructed one of his robot assistants to project an image. An image of a man seated appeared. A spy captured several months earlier. This was the man responsible for almost detonating a nuclear warhead, nearly annihilating several students from Beyonder's academy. Zombie boiled with rage at the sight of the man who had nearly caused his demise. The chief continued, stating that the spy deserved immediate execution. Yet, the spy could hold vital information about Jamie, leading to his temporary reprieve. Zombie began to sense that Jamie posed a greater threat than the zombies. As the zombie danger had significantly receded, he noticed that most conflicts arose from internal disputes. Dawn nodded in agreement with Zombie's observation, her face clouding over as she revealed a grim reality. Some people simply wished to see the world engulfed in chaos. The chief resumed, informing the students that despite numerous attempts, they had failed to extract information from the spy. Even the most senior students were unable to make the spy reveal his secrets. The chief shared the alarming details of their interrogation techniques with everyone. The infamous tiger bench, the cruel needle castration, the near-drowning experiences. Yet, the resilience of the spy was uncanny, proving impervious to their methods. The chief, seeing no other options, turned to the newest member of the team, the freshman. The mission was challenging, but the chief sweetened the deal with a promise. Whoever could get the spy to spill his secrets would earn the title of vice president. The room buzzed with renewed vigor as this golden opportunity arose, hands shooting up, eager to volunteer. A lucky contender was chosen, and with the chief's well wishes, he darted off towards the spy's hideout. However, 2 hours later, he returned, dejected and defeated. One by one, they tried and failed, each method growing more peculiar than the last. Prayers, childish taunts, even resorting to invoking some Buddhist wisdom. Violet couldn't help but feel a bit embarrassed by the spectacle. Meanwhile, Zombie and Dawn lounged lazily, enjoying their popsicles. Dawn, intrigued, questioned Zombie if he could possibly succeed where the others had failed. Zombie, full of confidence, bragged that he could even get the spy to sing. Encouraged by his audacity, Dawn drew the chief's attention, advocating for Zombie's turn at the challenge. As Zombie stepped up to the plate, Dawn pondered why the normally low-profile figure would take such a bold step. A sense of tension filled the air as Zombie approached, while Lanky eyed him with evident hostility. Zombie had always considered his subordinates compliant, but recently, they seemed to act out of character. Maybe this spy held some answers. The encounter began. The spy and Zombie locked in an intense stare. The spy mocked the academy, laughing at their desperation to send someone like Zombie. Yet his laughter subsided quickly when Zombie left a tiny scar on his face. Zombie's deadpan seriousness compelled the spy to stand, leaving Violet, Dawn, and the chief in shock. It seemed Zombie's scar was more than a mere wound. It was a vessel for a mind-controlling virus that flowed through the spy's veins, straight to his brain. A clever twist that proved even the most unbreakable could be broken. There existed a powerful virus, allowing Zombie to manipulate the thoughts of any spy. Once under Zombie's control, the spy confessed his name as Sayo Kai, without hesitation. Observers watched on in awe, their mouths agape at Zombie's newfound power to control minds. Curiosity piqued. Zombie delved deeper into Kai's relationship with a character named Jamie. Kai, still under the spell, revealed he held a wealth of knowledge about Jamie. The subsequent question posed by Zombie was about the cause of the zombie's irrational behaviors. Kai confessed that a medicine concocted by Jamie had been sprinkled over the city, driving the zombies into a frenzy. More alarmingly, Jamie was using this potion to control the zombies to some degree, instructing the rogue zombies to terrorize the human population. Jamie's team collected valuable data on the Beyonders Academy by instigating these attacks. When questioned about Jamie's ulterior motives, Kai admitted his ignorance. All he knew was that Jamie had grand plans underway, and his mission was to collect information about the Beyonders Academy's members through the zombie attacks. As Zombie inquired about Jamie's location, Kai responded instantly that Jamie was stationed in a secret base, situated 500 meters below the city. All who heard this were amazed, including Lanky, who had underestimated Zombie's power. Before leaving, Zombie commanded Kai to turn around, threatening him by mentioning a virus he had placed in his brain. He gave Kai a chilling warning about his ability to trigger this virus, causing Kai to end his life, then walked away, leaving Kai to take care. As Kai, still under control, stood staring blankly, Jamie's team deep beneath the city was alerted of Kai's betrayal. The Beyonders Academy now knew of their secret hideout, and Jamie had to prepare for their impending arrival. His assistant, aware of the Academy's power, was concerned, but Jamie was undisturbed. In his eyes, his grand experiment was nearing completion, and the Academy's arrival was perfect timing to witness the birth of his creation, a complete life form. Back at the Academy, Zombie's display of power had sent ripples of fear and admiration through the crowd. Whispers of his mind control abilities circled among the students. Violet was awed, while Lanky was coming to understand Zombie's true strength. The once underestimated Zombie was gaining respect, and even applause from the chief, who was proud of the hidden talent amongst the freshmen. After this display, the chief made good on his promise to appoint Zombie as the next vice president. However, Zombie's attention was fixed on Jamie. The chief reassured him that Jamie was not likely to run, allowing Zombie to focus on his next steps. Lanky, on the other hand, was growing restless with the proceedings. As the chief led Zombie through the VP registration process, a boy nearby found the whole situation strange, particularly the bureaucratic process involved in becoming a vice president. Intrigued by a certain suspicion, Lanky decided to shadow Chief and Zombie to the deserted industrial district. The location was eerily calm, but Zombie felt a sense of unease. As he pondered over the prospects of owning the dilapidated space, he also remembered his unfinished task of registering himself and pursuing Jamie. Chief, with his uncanny perception, questioned Zombie about his ability to speak human language, instantly hinting at Zombie's true identity. When quizzed, Zombie chose to play dumb. In a swift response, Chief drew his gun and shot at Zombie. However, Lanky and her assistant were standing right behind Zombie. Concern clouded the assistant's face for Lanky. However, she immediately identified the disintegration capability of Chief's weapon. Chief wasn't someone to be easily tricked. After discerning Zombie's actual nature, he chided the academy for being careless enough to let Zombie infiltrate their ranks. Chief, believing he had neutralized the zombie, a creature susceptible to beheading, apologized for his aggressive actions. His apology was grounded in the necessity to protect the academy from the trespassing zombie. Yet, to his surprise, Zombie didn't falter but retaliated. Chief was thrown against a building, visibly wounded, and Zombie was nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, Chief's robotic aides arrived and fired their lasers at Zombie, resulting in an explosion in the area. Unfazed, Zombie caught the robots and flung them away, easily dismantling the sophisticated machines. A feeling of disquiet overcame Chief as he watched Zombie retaliate. He wondered how Zombie could continue moving despite being headless. Zombie, headless and clutching a defeated robot, was a sight to behold. Lanky and her assistant watched, awestruck, as Zombie stood his ground. Despite Chief's evasive maneuvers, Zombie launched relentless attacks. Chief grew increasingly frustrated with Zombie's speed, especially considering his headless condition. While Zombie's relentless assault continued, Chief strategically retreated to prepare his next move. Lanky's assistant worried for Chief, but she seemed nonchalant, aware of Chief's penchant for dramatic showdowns. As Lanky advised her assistant to keep a safe distance, a surprising development unfolded. Zombie's head began to reform, spinning back to its original shape. Lanky and her assistant were stunned at this unexpected recovery. Zombie, having regained his head, expressed his intention to communicate, not to fight. Chief, however, remained wary, suspecting mind control tactics. He remained adamant to continue the fight and summoned his robotic suit, Model 1. Pieces of the suit began to assemble around Chief, attaching themselves to his body. As Zombie watched in confusion, Lanky and her assistant were spellbound. Encased in his newly formed robotic suit, Chief looked like a formidable adversary. In a world where metal and magic collide, our leader is known as the mechanical life form. He's all nuts and bolts, but he has a human touch. He stormed into battle, striking Zombie with a forceful blow from his mechanical kneecap. Zombie reeled through the air, the ground rushing to meet him. Just before Zombie hit the dirt, the Chief let loose another blow, this one landing straight in Zombie's gut. The impact lifted Zombie clear off the ground again. Lanky and her helper stood by, their eyes wide as they watched the intense spectacle unfold. Unyielding, Chief didn't let up. He pressed his attack, matching Zombie blow for blow. Zombie was unable to regain his footing, falling victim to Chief's relentless assault. With a final triumphant strike, Chief sent Zombie crashing back to the earth. As Zombie lay on the ground, Chief landed with grace and poise, sternly reciting his mission: all zombies must perish. Then, he unleashed his most powerful weapon, a dazzling laser emanating from his chest. The once gloomy alleyway was suddenly bathed in a blinding light. Chief paused, catching his breath, confident that his mission was complete. But the battle was far from over. Zombie staggered to his feet, leaving Chief dumbfounded. Zombie then let out an ear-splitting scream that sent Lanky and her aide recoiling. Even Chief, despite his advanced armor, felt the impact of the scream. A new determination shone in Zombie's eyes. He stood there, hair sprouting from his previously bald head. A chilling fear washed over Lanky and her partner as Zombie stepped forward. The sky started to warp, spiraling ominously above them. The city looked up in alarm as the phenomenon grew to cover the entire city. Lanky went from leisurely to panic mode. Citizens tripped over their feet, their eyes glued to the spiraling sky. Chief was speechless. Yet Zombie made a surprising proposal for peace. Chief, bewildered and defiant, refused to listen. Zombie, with a dark edge in his voice, asked Chief to choose his method of demise. Lanky and her aide sensed the sudden shift in Zombie's demeanor, and it gave them the chills. They decided to make a quick exit. Despite being mechanical, Chief experienced a novel feeling: fear. However, he put on a brave facade, taunting Zombie as Lanky and her aide beat a hasty retreat. As they fled, Lanky's aide confessed that despite all the data he had on Zombie, he had never seen him display such power. their hopes of escaping unscathed seemed to waver as the final showdown between Zombie and Chief was about to unfold. Unbeknownst to them, the two were far from out of danger's reach. The threat of the escalating battle reaching the burgeoning city alerted our duo. The Chief lay on the ground, his limbs amiss, an unfortunate encounter with the monster zombie. As the dreaded creature advanced, the Chief summoned his robotic aids, Models 2, 3, and 4, causing an impressive blast. Caught in this mayhem was Lanky, the Chief's companion. Understanding the gravity of their situation, the Chief urged Lanky to aid him, for Zombie was no ordinary adversary. Yet, overwhelmed with fear, Lanky rebuked the Chief for inciting the wrath of Zombie. Insisting on a retreat, she instructed the Chief and their team to scatter, just as Zombie, still on the ground, readied his next onslaught. Zombie wouldn't let them escape easily. Striking the ground with ferocity, he triggered an earthquake. Lanky, losing balance, succumbed to the quake's might. The horror intensified as Zombie hoisted the terrain, causing half the city to levitate. Citizens were thrown into panic and bewilderment, their city now a floating spectacle. Even Dawn stood stupefied at the surreal sight. Meanwhile, Chief, the victim of Zombie's power, had suffered a hard fall. Zombie, taking advantage of the situation, towered over the incapacitated Chief. Grasping his head, Zombie sneered, certain that robots couldn't resist his mind control. Yet Chief was no mere automaton. His limbs might have been mechanical, but his mind was human. Unfazed, Zombie tightened his grip, employing the same mental assault he used on a previous spy, until a virus infiltrated Chief's brain. Zombie now had access to Chief's memories. Memories revealed a silhouette of two adults, followed by the tragic childhood of an orphaned Chief. Flashbacks of a surgical operation flickered, showcasing the transformation of a man into a machine. Zombie sneered at Chief's pitiful past, taunting him for being more undead than himself. Zombie spared Chief, arguing a living torment was worse than death. Growing bored, Zombie flung Chief towards a cliff. Yet Lanky, with her terrified eyes, managed to rescue him in time. She was dumbstruck by Zombie's ability to access memories. But before they could react, Zombie vanished. That night, Zombie reverted to his former self. Ashamed of his emotional outburst and terrified of his own potential, he prepared to flee. He strived to convince himself of his benign nature, but his shame outweighed his self-perception. He dreaded facing humanity. But as he was about to depart, Violet spotted him. With no other choice, he had to silence the unexpected witness. Zombie braced himself to utter an apology for his forthcoming actions, but he was cut short when Violet unveiled a piece of parchment. She presented official documents to Zombie, proclaiming him as the new vice president of the illustrious Beyonders Academy. Zombie stood, puzzled. There hadn't been a tumultuous reaction to his previous unruly behavior, and to add to his confusion, it appeared Chief had sanctioned his new role. He queried Violet if the Chief had spoken about him. Violet responded affirmatively, sharing that the Chief believed Zombie to be an upstanding individual. Rather than showing any signs of anger, she even offered her congratulations on his recent success. Elsewhere, Chief was confined to his bed, with Lanky attending to him. Lanky expressed his concerns over Chief's decision to keep Zombie around, especially knowing the truth of his dual nature. However, Chief saw the silver lining. To him, it was immaterial if Zombie was human or not. He valued the potential benefits of having Zombie as an ally. Lanky's worries of Zombie losing control again seemed insignificant to Chief's calculated gamble. Shifting gears, Chief questioned Lanky about their plans. Despite his weakened state, he was still preoccupied with Professor Jamie. He pledged to erase all traces of this nemesis. Meanwhile, at the heart of the ocean, news reached the Zombie Society that their King Zombie was held captive in a city of humans. Loyal to his kin, Varmint sought advice from his comrades on a rescue mission. The Zombie Society responded in fury, advocating for the annihilation of humans to free their king. Blackie found Varmint's concerns redundant, as both he and AGU knew the colossal power their King Zombie wielded. Back at the Beyonders Academy, Chief, now miraculously healed, made a proclamation for everyone to prepare for the capture of Professor Jamie. In a distant city, Zombie and Dawn meandered the streets. As Dawn marveled at the city's preservation, their path was blocked by a battalion. The soldiers weren't there to attack, rather to formally welcome Zombie to his newfound dominion, promising to adhere to his commands. Zombie struggled to process this swift change. He hadn't requested these honors. Nevertheless, all soldiers gathered in the city center to salute their new vice president, Zombie. Puzzled, Zombie asked a soldier if they would unquestioningly follow his orders, even if he commanded self-destruction. To Zombie's surprise, the soldier produced a grenade. Zombie, attempting to defuse the situation, confessed he was joking. But the soldier was relentless. He tossed the grenade. Their eyes met, revealing that this soldier was just a minor character, not someone of significant power. For a moment, Zombie had assumed they'd dispatched someone formidable. High above, a man perched on a towering ledge, the subject of hushed whispers and curious glances. His presence was an enigma, seeming ill-suited for the task of safeguarding such a vital place. Below him stood two stern figures, emissaries of the prestigious Stainless Steel Academy and its rival, the Beyonders Academy. Their mission was clear: to assist in capturing a significant target. A ripple of surprise swept over them as they gazed upon the man's fiery red hair. They were none other than President Bang and Vice President Chui, leaders of the Steelblade Division at the Stainless Steel Academy. Intriguingly, they found themselves thrust into what was primarily an internal affair of the Academy. Nevertheless, they accepted the task. After all, lending a hand was customary. The sudden promotion of a greenhorn to vice president baffled them. Even more puzzling was his assignment to such a strategic post, considering the vast network of roads and numerous exits in the northern sector of the city. Yet they were reminded not to meddle in affairs beyond their purview. As outsiders, they were to follow orders without question, leaving them to concentrate on their task, an imminent assault. The man in question defended his assignment. Despite his apparent inexperience, he was confident in his strength, able to subdue even the toughest adversaries. He assured them that with 2 additional Academy members securing the exits, the area was well protected. An eerie silence descended as Brother Fei, a scientist, announced they had the city surrounded. His next command sent a chill down their spines: release the zombies. As he pressed the red button, an unexpected wave of zombies flooded the streets. As gunshots echoed through the city, the 2 chiefs displayed their prowess by effortlessly exterminating the onslaught of zombies. Surprisingly, the zombies weren't part of their tribe, but they handled the situation with ease. Frustrations mounted as the man once again brushed off their concerns. He suggested they should leave, hinting they were out of their league. Their chief, however, had caught their attention. A petite critter, known as Varmint, had emerged on the scene. The zombie questioned Varmint's motives, and in response, the scientist laughed ominously, hinting at a dramatic showdown. Just 2 hours prior, this same Varmint had fearlessly challenged the zombie. Armed with a gallon of gasoline, Varmint seemed to be devising an intriguing plan. The zombie, not daring to oppose the king's command, retreated, wishing Varmint luck. The spectacle was as thrilling as it was perplexing. Did they need Varmint? Could he vanquish the human on his own? Amidst the mystery and chaos, an unusual scent lingered. As they observed the antics of the diminutive creature, the scientist diligently recorded the unprecedented turn of events. What will the little Varmint do next? The city was watching, and so were they. The zombie gazed at the young lad with the red hair, perplexed by his audacity. The young one, mischievously referred to as Little Varmint, uncapped a gallon and took a gulp of gasoline. The zombie girl couldn't believe her eyes. He was actually drinking gasoline, and as the liquid coursed through his veins, he was visibly fortified. His sudden piercing scream shattered the nearby windows and grating on everyone's nerves. While the zombie remained on the ground, the redhead girl was mid-air, and their chief, standing behind, couldn't hide his annoyance at the piercing noise. She turned to him, asking what was happening. The mischievous little Varmint dared the chief to join in his games. The chief, despite being irked, found the upcoming challenge exhilarating. As the loud roar from the Varmint still echoed in his ears, he grabbed the girl's hand and urged her to run. As they ran, she couldn't help but question their hasty retreat when they had 2 department heads on their side. His answer was simple: they couldn't kill the Varmint. His stern face told her he wasn't joking. Meanwhile, President Bang had been observing the chaos and labeled them cowards for fleeing. Seeing a new, stronger adversary, a comrade of theirs valiantly offered to handle it. Just as he agreed, he sensed something amiss and spun around, only to find his brave comrade lifeless. The sight was jarring, and the little varmint, finding joy in his despair, asked him his preferred method of demise. As the trio, the zombie, the redhead, and the soldier, ascended to the top of the building, a fierce clash between President Bang and the varmint was unfolding. An observing scientist, too, was caught in the madness. The scientist watched as the little varmint continued to torment President Bang. The president, however, remained resilient, declaring he was no weakling. Despite the president's resistance, the little varmint didn't cease his onslaught, kicking him to the ground. His comrades watched sympathetically as the varmint planted his foot on the president's chest. Using a telescope, Zombie and Redhair observed the scene, their hearts sinking with the knowledge that President Bang was in grave danger. The varmint, enjoying the president's predicament, let out a cruel laugh. The beleaguered president fought back his tears, pleading for his life. As this happened, the scientist atop the building mocked the struggling president as a stupid human academy and laughed uproariously. In their hideout, the soldier asked what their next step was. The redhead knew an ordinary soldier wouldn't survive an encounter with the varmint. Zombie then looked at her with a plan in his eyes, considering her as a possible decoy to distract the varmint. Understandably, she wasn't pleased with this potential sacrifice, retorting, "Do you want me to become his food?" Gently, he took her hand, and in an unexpected move, bit it. A stinging pain shot through her fiery red hair. As she nursed her arm, marked with the imprint of teeth, a question arose. "Are you using this as a ploy to control my mind?" To her relief, his response was reassuring, denying such a tactic. Meanwhile, the president was on edge, haunted by the creature they called the varmint. In a moment of guilt, he called his mom, admitting his mistake of belittling her. To his relief, she chose not to punish him. The varmint merely laughed at the scene, causing a commotion that made him turn his head. Curious and fearless, she approached the varmint, weapon in hand, daring it to engage. Suddenly a zombie clamped its teeth into her red hair. A rush of alien genetic material flooded her bloodstream. To their astonishment, she stood undeterred, a defiant zombie with a gun in hand. The varmint, not to be outdone, proposed a challenge of his own. "Care to join the game?" Smirking, she dismissed his bravado. "What makes you so special?" With the varmint in her crosshairs, she let loose a barrage of bullets, all the while laughing. The unexpected gunfire shocked the president, sending him into tears. Agile and nimble, the varmint deftly dodged the bullets, urging the president to find safety. In a daring move, she dashed towards the varmint, planting a bomb in its mouth. With the bomb in place, she sprinted away just as it exploded, leaving the varmint unscathed. Amidst the chaos, she continued her attack. The vice president of zombies, startled, questioned his next move. He reassured, explaining his minor genetic modifications on Dawn, asserting her potential to grow even stronger. As smoke from the blast clouded their vision, she reveled in the thrill of the fight. Amused by the turn of events, she laughed, even as the two chiefs clung to each other in fear. The varmint challenged her, questioning her strength. His armor proved to be no match for her kick, sending him sprawling on the ground. Her display of power left Vechiev in awe. He praised her, wondering why she'd been hiding such power. Gleefully, she announced, "It's time for a bang, bang!" Her audacious behavior left Zombie in shock. Injured but undeterred, he found a fuel tank and chugged the gasoline, ready for round 2. The sight of the varmint, energized by the fuel, left the chief in terror. Asserting his undead nature, the varmint told her that her efforts were futile. His statement about being undead drew a bold declaration from her. "So am I." The game was on, leaving the president and vice president wondering about the sanity of the participants. Once upon a time they fled, and he managed to safeguard them, to his delight. The little creature pondered over the duo, questioning who the actual monsters were. The zombie and the soldier intently watched. He was caught off guard by the newfound strength Dawn had gained from a genetic mutation, but the toll it took on her was immense. Her bones shattered and muscles torn apart. Despite his ability to manipulate genetic recombinations, the excruciating pain of being disassembled was genuine. This was his punishment for breaking rules and not staying put at home. He was tutoring the little creature, a hard lesson. She stood up to it, landing a punch on its face. A swift kick, a hard hit followed. The little creature winced in pain. Laid out flat, it took the beating. She didn't hold back from her onslaught. He craved the mercy of her ceasing the assault. He even cried for surrender, promising to leave and immediately return home. Zombie and the scientists, witnesses to this drama, watched on. The red-haired girl was restrained from continuing the attack. Unaware that it was a trick, she fell for the varmint's pretense of surrender. The varmint launched a surprise attack, immobilizing her. Shock engulfed them. Zombie queried her lowered defenses and warned that letting her guard down would revert the situation to chaos. In pain, she confessed her ignorance. The varmint smugly revealed that her previously consumed stimulants had worn off and promised to look after her in the next life. Adding insult to injury, he laughed, mocking her by questioning her monstrous type. Disappointment marked Zombie's face. The laughter continued. Meanwhile, the two chiefs cried for help. The plea was heartbreaking, a cry for their mothers, a desperate wish to avoid death. The scientists' laughter halted at the sight of a new arrival. Zombie sprung into action, intending to save them. Unconcerned, the scientist cheered for his varmint, boasting of its unrivaled strength. The little creature set its gaze on Zombie, who asked if it remembered him. They trembled in fear, wondering about their fate had he not intervened. Seeing the creature motionless, concern shadowed the scientist's face. Zombie reminded him of his ignored advice to stay home and demanded an explanation. Memories of their previous encounter rushed back, when the creature had called him weak and feeble. Confused about the conversation, she asked for details, only to be told that he seemed to have wet himself in fear. Indeed, he had. The scientist questioned his actions, ordering him to attack. Zombie stood firm while the creature fell silent, flashing back to their previous encounter. Questions hung in the air. What was he doing and why was he so scared of Zombie? The bespectacled youngster was unaware of a peculiar truth. The strange creature known as Varmint had an indestructible body. This was a being who had been torn to pieces, sliced like sushi, and left to dry on a tree for over a century. The creature suggested a conflict, but the boy refused. He encouraged the watching scientists that if they wished to challenge him, they should step forward themselves. Silence fell upon them, shocked by the boy's words. This was an unprecedented occurrence. Queries began about how he shrugged off their control. His response was unexpected. He had abandoned the path they expected him to follow. As he spoke, a cloudy sky overhead echoed with the distant rumble of what could have been a helicopter. "The president is here," came the declaration. President Lanky, a woman of authority, inquired with certainty whether her brother Faye was below. Affirmative. The sixth-floor complex extended across an area exceeding 11,000 square meters. Hearing the vast number, President Lanky expressed her disbelief, wondering how long it would take to search such an extensive place. A figure stood, gripping a sword, proclaiming that any problem could be overcome with overwhelming power. President Lanky tried to halt his reckless advance, but to no avail. A blue-haired observer called out, dismayed at his recklessness. An explosive object was thrown, and a loud blast echoed through the city. "Isn't this faster than taking an elevator?" came the smug remark. President Lanky was exasperated. She accused him of lacking thought and speculated on the potential for a trap. He scoffed, claiming that all schemes crumble before raw power. Despite her protests, he continued on his path, leaping onto a departing helicopter. Ground troops began to survey the area. Orders circulated among the soldiers. Report to Chief Gang, no one in Area 1. Report to Chief Kin, Area 2 also empty. Frustration grew among the ranks. Their quarry had escaped. Yet, they were reassured by the knowledge that every escape route was blocked, whether by land, sea, or air. Nothing could slip through, not even a mosquito. There were grumblings of dissatisfaction. Why wait when they could actively pursue the villains? They weren't any less capable if they banded together. Attempts were made to calm President Lanky's growing irritation. There was a need to respect their superiors, they reasoned, even as they cursed them under their breath. Somewhere atop a towering building, scientists were deep in strategic planning. Brother Faye ordered the execution of a mysterious planet. Amidst it all, a lone figure studied some notes, marked with the ominous title, Zombie King. He pondered their meaning. The notes were clear. Within lay the Zombie King, a threat of utmost danger. He dwelled on the final phrase, a challenge of sorts. Open it if you dare. With a stern command, he directed his soldier to initiate the explosion. Their objective was simple: apprehend the culprits, without unnecessary risk. Despite their caution, however, their initial ruse was seen through. Undeterred, Brother Fei initiated their backup strategy. Fingers pressed onto the glaring red button, setting off an alarm that echoed ominously. This was their snare, Brother Fei announced, as they retreated swiftly. He declared triumphantly that the laboratory's doors had been flung open, marking the dawn of a new species. A shocking order followed: eradicate all human life, sparing none, not even himself. As the explosion's after-effects lingered, all eyes watched with bated breath. Amid the chaos and shock, a question arose. Could it be the Zombie King? That tiny, seemingly innocent zombie child? He cautioned his comrade, emphasizing the danger in underestimating the seemingly harmless. Indeed, he worried, the most dangerous adversaries often appeared unthreatening at first. His warnings proved prophetic when the zombie child descended upon him. The call for an immediate evacuation rang out as his troops scattered in every direction, leaving him to face the zombie child. The situation took a chilling turn when the tiny monster split into two. Lost and overwhelmed, they watched as the zombie child stood center stage, asserting its dominance. The scientists reported a breach. The zombies had been unleashed amidst the confusion. Their invasion began with the city under siege. From a distance, they watched the undead hordes approach, its sheer numbers staggering. Fear creeping in, plans for a defensive line started to form, only to be dismissed by President Lanky. Her confidence was unwavering. This was a job for the professionals. With an exhilarating display of agility and strength, she lunged at the zombies, her sword singing in the air. Her powerful kick sent a zombie soaring, showcasing her prowess. She battled the zombies fearlessly, earning the admiration of a pudding-eating observer. Her rapid maneuvers were a sight to behold, leaving the others in awe. President Lanky boldly challenged the horde, vowing that their disorder would not grant them escape. The scientist watched in surprise as she decimated the undead army he'd unleashed. Bitterly, he mused on the fate of his chainsaw-wielding zombie as the undead scattered. As a precautionary measure, they donned masks to ward off the virus. A photo of a person, referred to as a varmint, was shown to a zombie, prompting a sudden fury. The zombie rejected the offered photo, tearing it apart. Fear clung to them all, a shared dread of the king's punishment should they fail to retrieve the varmint in time. "Stay calm, we'll surely find him," he assured. Meanwhile, within the mysterious laboratory, our lone zombie stood amidst a cryptic circle. Two men, striding through this strange world, encountered this zombie, curiosity sparking a desire to engage. Misunderstanding their intentions as mockery, the duo lunged at the seemingly innocent baby zombies. Terrified, the little zombies sprinted away. "Stand your ground! Fight like a man!" he roared, but the zombie merely stared, innocently removing a pacifier from its mouth. Suddenly, a female zombie appeared, stunning the duo. They were at a loss, uncertain how to react. Casually, she sat at a nearby table, her gaze fixed on the two men. "Why not play with me?" she proposed. Undeterred, he threatened to shred her to pieces. In an attempt to make good on his threat, he lunged at her, only to have her effortlessly stop his sword. Panic setting in, he cried for his friend's help. But his companion was in a predicament of his own, victim to a surprise knee kick from a fully armored zombie. The impact reverberated with a thunderous echo. Confused by the explosive sounds, they watched in disbelief as the top of the building disintegrated, raining debris upon them. "Can you lend me a hand?" he asked. "Remember, I'm a zombie," Blackie reminded him. Then, at the Stainless Steel Academy, the chief inquired about the commotion below. He explained, nursing a zombie-inflicted wound, but was interrupted by an unusual sight. They spotted the female zombie, now encased within a glass chamber. Concurrently, on the city's other side, a feast was underway. Chicken wings sizzling, eggs preferred by President Zombie, and even a uniquely barbecued egg, much to the red-haired girl's surprise. As a token of hospitality, Zombie was offered a cup of tea. Finding the brew a tad dry, Zombie requested the finest Shijin tea, to be airlifted if necessary. Suddenly, a noise caught President Zombie's attention, drawing him back to the female zombie standing atop a bridge. He noted that these female zombies seemed different, potentially problematic. Urging a temporary truce, he suggested they unite against the common threat. A series of underground explosions were concerning enough, but the last one sounded dangerously closer. President Zombie decided to investigate. If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons for more thrilling narratives. Leave a comment with your thoughts, and stay tuned for more adventures. Until next time, stay safe. Goodbye.